Like, think I could do it in 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Probably not.
You're gonna have to.
I have to. This is AA. We don't have to do anything.
Yeah, that's true.
No, I'm playing. I'm Rory. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Rory.
And I will admit, it's a little strange being up here today. I haven't been up here in a while. And I'm a little bit tired. I woke up early for work. And I was at work, and I was texting Rick. I said, Rick, you going over to the meeting today? And he said, yeah. So it's funny. I was just asking you. I was going to ask you if you wanted to speak. I was like, okay, I guess I'll come to the meeting. So I said yes. But little does he know that I was going to ask to volunteer for you next week. So, not this week. Next week. I don't read mine, so I didn't know that you were in need this week. Yeah, and to be quite honest with everybody, I'm probably the last person that should be sharing an AA meeting. To be honest, I'm probably one of the last people who should be sharing meetings because I haven't been to an AA meeting in a while. I'm involved with a different form of recovery, but I haven't been to an original true AA meeting in a few months. So I just wanted to let you guys know that. But this is my old stomping grounds. Cornerstone Fellowship Group is essentially where I got sober. It's where I met my first sponsor. It's where I met my first sponsee. It's where I used to come to a lot of meetings. It's where I had my first service commitment. I used to scrub toilets in there. That was my first service commitment. I wanted a real glamorous position so you could go scrub the toilets. And I did it so good, and in 6 months, I got a job at Walmart on the graveyard shift, getting paid $9 an hour to do it. So every time I come here, it's like a homecoming for me. So I am grateful to be here, and I am completely grateful to be sober. October 1st, God willing, I'll celebrate 7 years of sobriety, which to me is pretty crazy because, in 6 and something years worth of recovery, it's just insane the amount of people that we watch come and go. And, that never, thankfully, and I think this is a good thing, that's never, I've never got over that. I've never got over the pain of watching people leave. I know maybe not everyone feels that way, but we get to know people in these programs, we get to know people in these rooms, and we watch a lot of them fall away. And I'm only bringing that up because I've been having communication with quite a few guys lately who were part of the team. We were all buddies when we first got sober, and I want to say about 95% of them have fallen away. 2 guys in particular that I'm thinking about mentored me when I first got sober. They had 2 or 3 years sober, and they were mentoring me when I was first getting clean and sober. And I watched the tables turn, and I watched those men go back out, and I saw how harrowing it is when they go back out. And one of those men I sponsored, I mentored, I baptized, I did all that for him. And another friend also who was, he always had a hard time with recovery, but I just remember watching his life kind of deteriorating. I remember this one time I was picking him up and we were going to go to a meeting, and I walk into the house, into his apartment, and him and his ex-girlfriend had gotten in this big fight. And it looked like Vietnam in there, man. Couch was turned over, the TV was broken. It was just crazy. And he's this big guy, he's this big hulk of a guy, and he's sitting there with his head in his hands, and he's just crying. I can't stop. And I told him, I love you, man. I know that you are I know that you're a better person than this. And I get how tough it is. I get how tough anger is. I get all that. I get that. So I just bring that up to illustrate just how beautiful recovery is, and how glad I am to be here, and how good God has been to me, and how good recovery is, and how big of a gift that recovery is. And if you don't agree with that, you could read the 10th step out of the 10 and 10, where Bill W. himself even says, if I'm sober today, it's by the grace of God. And any success I'm having is far more than his than it is mine. And that's the founder himself saying that. So I keep those things in mind. I got sober. I was pretty young. I was 25, maybe 26 when I got sober. And, I always tell people this kind of as a joke that it was a fluke that I got sober. I wasn't looking to get sober. I was just a faithful boyfriend. I was a good codependent. I followed my ex-girlfriend into the program because she got court ordered because she had a drinking problem. I didn't have a drinking problem, right? I also didn't have a drug problem. I also didn't have a problem of using people and abusing people and taking advantage of everyone that I possibly could. I didn't have any of those problems, right? That was her. I was just a loyal boyfriend following her into the rooms. And within 6 months of being sober, we split up. And as we're splitting up, she's like, man, she said, you go to a lot of AA meetings. You go to a lot of AA meetings. I said, wow. Isn't that the kicker of it, right? I came into the program. I didn't intend on reading the big book, doing the steps, getting a sponsor. Actually, I heard all that, and I said, I'm not going to do any of that. I don't want to do any of that. And here it is, 6 months down the line. Man, you go to too many AA meetings. They were calling me a big book thumper and an AA thumper and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, it's just crazy how that works. So we split up. She ended up not staying sober. I've stayed sober, and it's been life in many different forms. It's been painful times, and it's been good times. I've got married in the program. My wife has never seen me loaded. I've had 2 beautiful kids in the program that have never seen me loaded. So I've had the joys of doing recovery as a single man, and I've had the joys of doing recovery for about 3 years now as a married man and as a father. And the joys of all that. In a few months here, we're getting ready to leave the area, move to a different state, buy our first house and all that kind of stuff. And again, I'm enjoyed to do that. But at the top of all that, my number one concern is I don't care. It could be a mansion for all I care. I just want to be sober where I go. Because I don't need to go get loaded in Texas. I could stay here and get loaded in California if I needed to do that. And I know what moving to another state with my family would be like if I started to drink and use drugs again. And that's terrible. And that's a terrifying thought. But, God is good. He's kept me sober this long. And I fully believe he can keep me sober that much longer. So that's why I do say yes. If I, on the rare occasion that I do get asked to share meetings, I say yes. I say yes, and I come. And I put my behind in the seat,
Yeah.
And try to show up, try to be of service, and just be a testament that you can do AA, and you don't have to do AA perfectly. You don't even have to do AA well. Just keep coming and showing up, trust in God, and I think there is something just in that right there. But I can say my life has been completely turned upside down since being in recovery. So much so that my whole life is built on recovery. So if you remove that one common denominator from my life, my whole entire life would fall down. My entire life would fall down. At one time, my job, I was a drug and alcohol counselor. So literally, you could pull the rug from underneath my feet, and it would all collapse. Everything would be all gone. It would be all gone. Because just like you guys, my life, what is it? My life fits into a shot glass as well. My life fits into a bag of drugs pretty well, and I know that for a fact because I've done that. This is not my first rodeo. I've done that. I've tried that. I've relapsed when I was younger, and I accumulated a few things before the relapse, and I watched everything go away. I watched everything get about 15 times worse than it was. I watched myself do things I never thought I would do, and then God saw fit to call me out of active drunkenness and active drug addiction. And people talk about when you get loaded, you relapse, you get loaded, and you do things that you never thought you would do. Incomprehensible demoralization, doing things and like, why am I doing this? How am I doing these things? I've done it. I've done it to the 10th degree. I went from being a normal kid in Campbell to being a crook and a thief, being a dirty tweaker, doing all that kind of stuff. Being so bad that I would steal from friends. I would steal from family. I'd steal from friends. And you're doing pretty bad when, the tweakers are peeking through their blind like, is Rory coming? Because we know if Rory's going to come, he's going to try to do some shady stuff to us, and it's, the shady guys in the town are looking out for you because they know you're going to do some shady stuff to them. So that's what it was for me this last time. And I know you guys who are laughing right now, you get it. You get it. You get the the height of recovery and the depth of the plunge from recovery. If you've been there, so I don't wish that on anybody. I don't wish that on anybody at all. It's a trip. Every time I come to Cornerstone on a Saturday at noon, we always go over that second step. But it's not that coincidental when there's only 3 steps that you're going through, right?
Yeah.
So it's like a 1 in 3 shot. But it talks about the disillusioned person in there, and that's how I was when I came into AA, because I wasn't one of these people that came in wanting to get sober, but I also was one of these people that came in who was like very angry at God. Now, I've heard a lot of people say I wasn't angry at God when I got sober. I was curious about God. I was the exact opposite guy. I tried faith, and I found it wanting, just like it says. So I came into the program not wanting anything to do with anything God related, and so I said, well, maybe I'll try this AA thing. We can build our own God. We can make gods. Somehow human beings can make gods, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this AA thing, and just little by little, by doing the first round of the steps, and I did it with a guy that I didn't really particularly care much for, and I still don't particularly care too much for him. I put him on my steps later on, but through doing the 12 steps with him, I put, and this is the one thing that probably saved my life. I put on the 12 steps, I put my hatred and I put my anger and my dissatisfaction with religion, with spirituality and God. I put all that on my 4th step. That was probably the one right thing that I did. I put it on there, and I shared that with him. And I remember the moment after the 5th step, and it really was, man. And I know people have different reactions to this, but like the 5th step, it's talking about walking down the broad highway with God. I felt complete peace. I had never felt that way before. I felt complete peace. And through doing that, I realized, man, I wasn't actually angry with God. I actually wasn't angry with God. I was angry at a few people that I thought represented God, and that's what it had come down to. I was angry at a few people from, different organizations here and there, wherever, that I thought were men that spoke for God. And it was like I could have that relationship with God again, because I was finally ready to let go of that resentment. I was finally ready to let go of it. And that resentment was blinding me. That resentment was killing me. I had gone from basically doing full-time church work as a teenager to relapsing, like I said. And I would break into churches. I would break into cars on Sunday mornings. I would rob churches while they were in service, because I thought I hated God so much that I would do that kind of stuff. And God took that away from me through doing these 12 steps. So that's why I've always been a big advocate of doing the 4th step. Don't be afraid of doing the 4th step. Do the 4th step. People talk a lot of trash about the 4th step, but this is a new and triumphant arch that we're about to walk through. That's the language they use about the 4th step in the big book. We want to get our lives right. We have to do that. So I put my frustrations with God on there, and my life is just rocketed ever since then. So me, Rick, and John, we like I mentioned earlier, we do, and I hate to use this expression, but you guys are familiar. We do participate in outside recovery, and a big part of my spiritual growth has been studying the roots and studying the history of the program, and trying to get back to the purity of those first 4 or 5 years when the program was very effective, when they were seeing astronomical numbers, and we've been trying to rely on God, studying the history studying, the guys outside of the program that have written books like Ernest Kurtz and Dick B, and studying these guys like our lives depends on it, reading everything from the Oxford group that you can possibly think of, paying $100 online for Oxford group books because they're not in print, they're not in the libraries in town, but getting back to the pure source, getting back to the fountain, to use a theological expression, but trying to get back to the roots of the program and stay sober in the process and help people in the process. Help as many people as we possibly can. And that's a big joy in my life, is, again, just helping people, sponsoring people, meeting with guys, talking with guys, doing all that kind of stuff, doing the deal. And I'm blessed to do that, and I just want to give the rest of my life doing these things. And if God gives me one more day to do that, I would be abundantly blessed. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Yeah.